What's going on, guys? Today we're talking about, should you start your adult day center from scratch or should you purchase an existing one? Which way should you go? We're talking about the pros, the cons, but first make sure you like, comment, subscribe, show a little love. We appreciate all of you. Let's get into it. So starting from scratch or purchasing an existing adult day center, which is better? I don't know. It's gonna be up to you, but let's go through some of the pros and some of the cons. So, one of the pros about choosing or starting from scratch is that you can choose your own location. You can negotiate the rent, the rates. You can choose the area that you're in. You can kind of select that perfect location with the right height of ceilings, the right neighborhood, the right part of town, the right ingress egress. You have that flexibility to choose, the place, the area that you want to be in, that you think is going to set your place up for success. You also can design the floor plan. You have the flexibility to put bathrooms and to put rooms where you want to from the very beginning and kind of think through the space from the very beginning stages of the process, instead of having to go into a place where maybe you're buying it and it is already in this other location. It doesn't really make sense to move it. Maybe it already has a floor plan that kind of works, but maybe it doesn't make sense to spend a lot of money on construction. These are things to take into consideration, because if you go new, if you start from scratch, you have all of the flexibility to create all of this stuff from scratch and to start from the very beginning, from the floor plan to the location to all those things. The other thing that is also a nice pro is that you're gonna create greater equity. So if you start from scratch, even though it may take you longer to get open, you're gonna create for yourself much greater long-term equity. So if you decide to sell the adult day center someday down the road, there's going to be a greater amount of equity in the business itself, because you were the one that put in the sweat equity. You were the one that invested your time and your heart and your soul into this thing, that down the road, when you go to sell it someday, there'll be just a greater amount of equity in the long-term play, not necessarily in the short-term play. Some of the cons that come with starting from scratch, though, are going to be, there's going to be a higher startup costs. So if you're starting from the very beginning, just know that you're going to be incurring a lot more costs up front because the business has no cash flow. So you're going to be spending and spending and spending and spending through the entire construction process, through the licensing process, and until you get to profitability, and you're going to continue spending money during this phase. Now, this is, obviously you're going to get to a point where you begin to break even, then you get to become cash flow positive, and this is what you're aiming for, but just know that there's going to be a much greater initial startup cost as opposed to maybe purchasing something from scratch where you have cash flow already. Number two, it's going to be very time intensive. You're gonna spend so much more time in the beginning of starting something from scratch, because you're gonna have to go find the location, negotiate the lease, hire a contractor, use an architect, create the floor plan, go through zoning, go through licensing, build a team, put everything together. There's a lot of stuff that goes into this, and it's gonna take a lot of time. So it's not like you can just, like if you're purchasing something that's existing, you might be able to purchase something and get into it and get open or take ownership of that thing within a year. If you're starting from scratch, it might take more than a year. It might take 18 months, could take even longer than that, depending on how long it takes for you to find a space and how long it takes for you to go through licensing and go through construction and how good you are at managing those things. The other thing is licensing delays and just complexity. When you're starting an adult day center from scratch, you're gonna have to potentially go through a licensing process, and every state's gonna be a little bit different as to how complicated this might be, but you're gonna have to get licensed, you're gonna have to get your Medicaid number if you decide to accept Medicaid, you're gonna have to go and get your VA contracts if you decide to accept those. All that stuff's gonna take time. Maybe it takes 6 months, maybe it takes a year, maybe it takes 18 months. We don't know how much time it's gonna take, but it's gonna add complexity and it's gonna take more time. And those could potentially be those cons. Do you have, are you willing to wait through all of that, knowing that, hey, there may be a greater long-term equity play here. Now, when it comes to purchasing an existing building, some of the pros that come with that is you're buying a business that already has capacity and cash flow. So you're buying something that already exists, that's producing revenue, that has a team in place, that maybe has some systems in place. It may not be perfect. It may not be the business that you desire or hope for it to be. However, it's going to be something that is going to have immediate cash flow. You're going to be able to take over and step into this business knowing that it's cash flowing, it has revenue every month. Like, you're stepping into a business that's already operational. So that's going to be a pro. Another one is it may have a good established reputation in town. Or maybe it's not great, but it's not terrible either. But there is at least a reputation. People are at least aware that this center exists. They've been referring to it. So you're actually, one of the pros to this is that you're actually buying into the awareness in that community that this adult day center exists. That's a pro. It's going to have an existing license. You may not have to go through that entire licensing process because it already has one. And so you just have to go through the change of ownership paperwork. This may take a lot less time than having to apply for a license from scratch. And it may give you some of those benefits of being able to step right into receiving reimbursement from Medicaid or the VA or other long-term care insurance products that maybe are already in place with the existing business that you're buying. Some of the cons, though, is you're going to inherit some of those problems. If there's some bad apples on the team, if there's some systems, or if there's a bad reputation, or there's existing problems with the business, like those are the problems that you're going to be inheriting. So you got to take that into consideration. That could be a con. You have to overcome those problems. So what are those problems? Are they easy to overcome? Is it something that you can turn around in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months? Is it going to take a year? Like how difficult is that period of time going to be for you? Also, one of the cons is we talked over here about there being a high startup cost, and that is true for starting out from scratch. But if you're purchasing an existing adult day center, you're going to have probably much higher investment amount. So you're going to have to either borrow more money or you're going to spend more money to purchase that existing adult day center. And when you do that, like you're doing that because you're buying a business that's actually cash flowing, that has some sort of value to it, but it's probably going to have a much greater purchase price than what you would spend starting up. So one, you're going to spend a ton of money with no money coming in. The other one, you're going to spend maybe a ton of money, or has a high dollar investment amount that you're going to start earning cash flow from immediately. So you have to take that into consideration. So if you need to get an SBA loan, what is your debt service going to be? How much per month are you going to spend servicing the debt? And can you still, have a cash flow positive business and pay down the debt? So you're profitable and you're cash flow positive, and you're paying down and servicing the debt that you put onto it. And then number 3 is that you're going to probably have, you're not going to be able to make as many modifications as you would if you were starting from scratch, because the business may already be designed a certain way. It may not have the capacity or the ability to add on to it. You may not be able to reduce the number of bathrooms or add more bathrooms because of some code or some zoning issue. You may not be able to increase the license amount because of some other zoning or code thing that is preventing you from doing this. And if so, those limited modifications might have an effect on whether or not you can increase the revenue or increase the number of people that could participate every single day. So just knowing that you're walking into something that may not have as much flexibility or the ability for you to customize as if you were starting something from scratch and starting it from the very beginning, and you can pick all of the best things that you want to put into your adult day center. So you might be inheriting some of those problems. You might have the limited modifications. All in all, this is a decision that only you can make. And a lot of times you might go into your area. There may not be an adult day center for sale, so you may not even have the option to purchase something existing. But you may go into an area and there's a couple of different ones for sale, but they may be in a terrible location, and you may think to yourself, what? It doesn't even make sense for me to purchase this business, no matter if it cash flows positive, no matter if it already licensed. It just doesn't make sense because the location is poor. It's not in a location that I want to be in. It's not a desirable location. And so it'll never be able to grow beyond where it's at today. And sometimes buying a business that has no potential upside is not necessarily a good business move, because you want to be able to buy something that you can add value to and increase the value of. And so you want to take all of these things into consideration, because both paths are difficult in their own way, and which one is going to be which one is going to fit your kind of risk profile better. Which one of these do you get more excited about? Which one of these are you more passionate about? Do you want to grow and scale through acquisition, through purchasing existing adult day centers, or do you want to grow and scale through starting them from scratch? One could happen overnight and you could purchase 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 in your area, and within a couple of years you could be at 10 locations through acquisition. The other route, starting from scratch, it could take a little bit longer, but you could build a powerful brand and it might have much greater long-term upside. These are all the things to take into consideration. The purpose of this video is to kind of just open your mind to the pros and the cons of starting from scratch or purchasing an existing adult day center, but it's a decision only you can make. That being said, guys, if you want to learn more about opening up your very own adult day center, go to adcpro.com. If you haven't already, make sure you check out our private Facebook group. Check out all the videos that you can find on our YouTube channel. And if you're interested in starting your very own ActiveAge, go to activeagecare.com/franchise. We'll see you on the next one. Peace. Hey guys, thank you so much for joining me. If you'd like to learn how to open your own adult daycare center, go to adcpro.com. If you'd like the latest business tips, click here, and make sure you subscribe to our channel. Click here. We'll see you guys next time.